in 20 seconds. The Wells Report begins in 10 seconds. North to south, coast to coast, around the world. This is the Wells Report. Good afternoon. I know that sounds kind of strange. Normally we come to your screens in the morning hours, but not today. Not today. I was planning to take a day off today because I had some family business I had to take care of, but then suddenly I realized there was just too much to talk about, so here we are on the Wells Report this afternoon. We'll be here until 5 Central Time, and we'll be doing this, just as we always do, bringing you the news, honestly and fairly. We analyze the news for fact and bias. We point out both. We make commentary. Commentary is not news. Commentary is opinion, both yours and mine. And so we debate. News, analysis, commentary, and debate. This is the Wells Report. I want to thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you are having a wonderful Friday. I just realized that I had forgotten to take my to go get my fishing shirt. I forgot to get my fishing shirt. I got to get my fishing shirt on. I'll do that in the first break here on the Wells Report. By the way, there is supposed to be a State Department briefing coming up in just a little bit. If indeed that happens, what we will do is we will take the Fox News feed on that, and we will make sure that you understand what's going on. As a matter of fact, as I speak, we just got that information that indeed they are going to bring us the State Department, and so let's go over there. Joining us is going to be the State Department Secretary of State, and that is, of course, Antony Blinken. So let's go with that. Here is the Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, from the State Department.
In Gaza. They include men, women, young boys, young girls, elderly people from many nations. Every single one of them should be released. Since the earliest hours of this crisis, the President has made clear that he will do everything possible to secure the release of every hostage. During my own recent travel to the region, I emphasized the urgency and importance of this to the United States and pressed our partners to do everything they can to help us secure the release. Since that time, we've continued to work relentlessly with partners to do just that. I can't speak publicly about the details of these efforts. I know you understand that. But the urgent work to free every single American, to free all other hostages, continues, as does our work to secure the safe passage out of Gaza for the Americans who are trapped there. In this particular instance, I want to thank the government of Qatar for their very important assistance. When I was in Israel last week, I met with the families of U.S. citizens that Hamas has taken hostage. President Biden, too, had the opportunity to hear directly from the families. It's impossible to adequately put into words the agony they're feeling of not knowing the fate of their loved ones. Worrying relentlessly about them, for their safety, for their security, for their well-being. No family anywhere should have to experience this torture. What I shared with the families, as the President did as well, is that the entire United States government will work every minute of every day to secure their release, to bring their loved ones home. They have my solemn pledge, those who continue to have loved ones held hostage by Hamas, that we'll continue to do that, working as though these family members were our own. With that, I'm happy to take a few questions.
Mr. Secretary?
Well, thanks for coming down, Mr. Secretary. You said you couldn't talk about specific details, but I'm wondering, you did thank the government of Qatar, and I'm wondering, since you were there, and they have an office, they host a Hamas office, if you could elaborate a little bit on what their role was, and if you continue to think that that channel there, them having an office there, is worthwhile. And then secondly, a lot has been made by you, by the president, by other officials about how it is important for Israel once, if and when it begins a ground incursion into Gaza, for it to respect the rules of war international. And I'm curious if you think that to date, even before that ground incursion has started, if Israel is respecting those rules and laws. Thank you.
Matt, thanks for the questions. You'll understand that because this is an ongoing effort to get Americans who are hostage in this moment in Gaza out, to secure their release, to get them back with their families. I really can't go into any details about what we're doing, how we're doing it. And all I can say with regard to Qatar is, in this instance, we very much appreciate their assistance. Beyond that, I really can't say, because again, we want to focus on making sure that we're getting those who remain hostage back home and with their loved ones. That's the single most important thing. With regard to how Israel is conducting its operations, I think you've heard the president speak to this very clearly. You've heard me speak to this very clearly. We've said, we believe strongly that Israel has not only the right, but the obligation to defend itself against it's very hard to put into words, the nature, the barbarity of the attacks. And they really do have the obligation to defend themselves against it, to do whatever they can to try to make sure that this doesn't happen again. But we've been very clear as well that the way Israel does this matters, and in particular, it's important that operations be conducted in accordance with international law, humanitarian law, the law of war, as applicable, and that everything be done to minimize the loss of civilian life. And we continue to focus on that, just as we're also focusing on getting assistance into people in Gaza who need it. There will be plenty of time to make assessments about how these operations were conducted, but I can just say for the part of the United States that this continues to be important to us. And again, it's what distinguishes us, distinguishes Israel from terrorist groups like Hamas, which not only have absolutely no concern for innocent human life, they intentionally use innocent human lives to hide behind, to use as, quite literally, as human shields, knowing that civilians invariably are going to suffer in conflict.
This is the Wells Report. You're watching the State Department briefing with Secretary of State Antony Blinken.
Abu Abaida, and I know with the huge caveat that it's a terror group and one does not attach credibility to that, but they've said that all the hostages, the civilian hostages, which include the Americans, could be released, that this could be the start of something bigger if there are no airstrikes. Would this be a moment where, if under Israel's discretion, obviously, it would be wise to pause, to give it more time to see if this is a moment, since the ground invasion has not started, should even the airstrikes be stopped, to see if you could get more people out. And it was notable, without going into details, that in the president's statement he said he expressed his thanks to Israel, to Qatar rather, in partnership with Israel. A notable connection there. The obvious inference is that they were working together on this. Does this give you hope that, despite everything that's happened, that there could still be a broader relationship and avoid a wider war?
Thanks, Andrea. So, two things there. First, it's very simple. Hostages should be released immediately and unconditionally. That's been our position from day one. It remains our position. And to your point, I would not take anything that Hamas says at face value. I'm not sure anyone in this room would take at face value or report something that ISIS had said. Same applies to Hamas. Our position is clear. Every hostage needs to be released, and needs to be released now. There is no doubt from my own travels in the region that one of the important things throughout this this very difficult period, and since the attack, the unconscionable attack by Hamas, is to continue to find ways for countries to cooperate, coordinate when it's in their interest to do so. And we'll continue to look to that. Any cooperation that we can elicit that facilitates the release of hostages, any cooperation that we can elicit that secures the provision of humanitarian assistance to the men, women, and children in Gaza who so desperately need it. We work on that every day. And I think we can say that we've seen some of that cooperation. The broader question, though, I think is usually important, because what's abundantly clear is the vast majority of countries, the vast majority of people want the same thing. They want a region where countries are working together, where relations are normalized, where there's greater integration, where people are working together, studying together, traveling, doing business. The overwhelming majority of people want that. And we want to see as well the rights and aspirations of the Palestinian people fulfilled in the context of that kind of region. And that's one vision, and it remains very much alive in every conversation that I had. The alternative is equally clear, and it's very stark. It's Hamas, it's Hezbollah, it's Iran, it's destruction, it's death, it's terrorism, it's darkness. So the more we are able to make real that first vision, the more I'm convinced that that's the vision that everyone, or virtually everyone, will subscribe to. So even as we are working through this challenge, this crisis, it's important to keep that vision alive, because it's important that people know that there is an alternative, and that everything that they hope for and that they aspire to is going to be best addressed through what I've just described, that first vision. We'll continue to do that.
Jennifer?
Thanks, Mr. Secretary. What can you tell us about the condition of these two Americans who have been released? What is their health status? And do you have any details on the condition of the Americans who are being held hostage? Have you seen any proof of life on them? And then on the Rafah crossing, what is the holdup in operationalizing this deal? And will we see it open this weekend?
I can't speak to the condition of the two hostages who were just released. First, out of respect for their privacy. Second, because we haven't had a chance yet, maybe it's happening as we speak, to get our own team in there to see them, to evaluate them, and most importantly, to reunite them with their loved ones. So I'm sure that'll come out in the hours, certainly the days ahead, but I don't have anything for you on that now. Nor do I have anything for you on the status of or condition of Americans who continue to be held by Hamas. With regard to the Rafah crossing, as you know, when some of us were traveling together in the region over the past week, getting assistance moving was among my top priorities. And we worked very hard with the government of Israel, the government of Egypt, to do just that. And we secured an understanding that we would develop a plan to move assistance. That understanding was cemented by President Biden when he was in Israel, and also speaking to President al-Sisi of Egypt. In the time since, we've been working relentlessly with Ambassador David Satterfield on the ground, working with the United Nations, with Egypt, with Israel, to put that into motion. And my expectation...
You're watching the Wells Report. My name is John David Wells. He is Anthony Blinken. He is the Secretary of State. He is conducting the State Department briefing. And we will continue to monitor all of that as we pay attention to the fact that a couple of American hostages were indeed released. We are glad that they are released. No information yet as to their personal health, etc., but we will be watching it and bring you that news to you.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this?
Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
This is the Wells Report. My name is John David Wells. We're bringing you the news. We'll have the front page for you in just a couple of moments. We put that aside for a moment while we had a chance to listen to the Secretary of State of the United States. And he brought the news that 2 American hostages had indeed been released. CNN reports it this way. Judith Ty Reynon and her 17-year-old daughter, Natalie Reynon, were released after being abducted with around 200 other people in a deadly attack on October 7th by Hamas. The U.S. citizens were handed over at the border with Gaza are now in the care of the Israeli Defense Forces, according to IDF spokesperson Daniel Hagari. They are currently on their way to an Israeli military base to be reunited with family, this according to the Office for Israel's Prime Minister. The Reynons are from Chicago and had been visiting relatives in Nahal Oz, a farming community in southern Israel, when they were taken, this according to their family. The 2 were handed over to the Red Cross and on their way out. This according to a source familiar with negotiations for their release, speaking earlier today. They are being released on humanitarian grounds because the mother is in poor health, according to that same source. The release was the result of negotiations between Qatar and Hamas. That was information that was the Secretary of State didn't feel like he wanted to talk about. This is interesting that CNN would go ahead and announce that, in that Qatar definitely has interests that are pro-Palestinian. It's interesting that they would be named in this article. Israel has since pummeled Gaza with relentless airstrikes, imposed a complete blockade, sparked a catastrophic humanitarian crisis in the Palestinian enclave. Okay, so we say at the top of the hour that we analyze the news for fact and bias. That is bias, and it's awful, and it's CNN. Israel has since pummeled Gaza with relentless airstrikes and imposed a complete blockade, sparking a catastrophic humanitarian crisis in the Palestinian enclave. The Palestinian enclave brought this on themselves. They chose Hamas. Hamas acted on their behalf. Israel is defending itself. That is all that is. That is complete and utter bias. It is not a catastrophic humanitarian crisis yet. The catastrophic humanitarian crisis started on October 7th, when Hamas left the Gaza Strip, went into Israel, and started slaughtering people. So let's make that abundantly clear. What we do is de-propagandize the news here on the Wells Report, and we just did. In a statement, Hamas spokesperson Abu Obaida said in response to Qatari efforts, Al-Qassam Brigades released 2 American citizens, a mother and her daughter, for humanitarian reasons, and to prove to the American people and the world the claims made by President Biden and his fascist administration claims are false and baseless. Qatar confirmed the release of the 2 American hostages, said they will continue dialogue with Israel and Hamas in hopes of releasing all civilian hostages from every nationality. This according to the spokesperson for Qatar's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Majid Al-Ansari, in a statement. Look, you know, the humanitarian aspects of all of this are not lost on me. I'm not cruel and heartless. I'm not in any way, shape, or form trying to increase or magnify the suffering involved that those people are suffering, the suffering those people involved are feeling right now. Not in any way, shape, or form. But the simple fact of this, as I've been bringing out in my coverage, that this has been going on for half a century. This is an opportunity where the powers that be, at least half of the power, representing themselves as leadership of the Palestinians, this is an opportunity brought about by their own savagery that can indeed back the Palestinians into a position where they can A, have their own homeland, and B, be forced to negotiate in good faith for that homeland. But Hamas needs to go. And I appreciate the fact that they released a couple of Americans. But as Eddie Jones said on our chat room, it's probably a delaying action. Absolutely it is. Israel's knocking on the door. They will soon roll into Gaza, and Hamas will cease to exist. That cannot happen soon enough. Today's front page coming up in just a couple of moments. We'll bring you up to date with all the news in a few moments here on the Wells Report.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost. How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right, for about $50 a month, you'll get lightning fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back, but you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now.
Call 866-245-6155. That's 866-245-6155. Again, 866-245-6155. 866-245-6155.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Time now for the front page, a digest of news from the time we left the air yesterday until this very moment. This is the latest up to date on the front page. The Israeli-Hamas war. Latest updates. 2 American hostages held by Hamas have been freed, according to a diplomatic source familiar with the details of the release. The development is welcome news for the American family awaiting word on their condition. The release came as military forces from Israel on Friday continued to pound the Gaza Strip with heavy airstrikes, slamming areas in the south where Palestinians had been told to seek safety, prompting many to return to the border north as hundreds of trucks packed with humanitarian aid stayed piled up at the Egypt-Gaza border. Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant said today that following the defeat of the Hamas militant group, the Israeli military does not plan to control life in the Gaza Strip. The Associated Press reported. Gallant further added that there will be 3 planned phases for the end of the Israeli-Hamas war, including airstrikes, ground maneuvers, and the eventual ceasing of responsibility of life for life in the Gaza Strip. The Israeli Defense Ministry said in a statement today the majority of the 200 people taken hostage by Hamas are still alive. This according to CNN. The IDF said about 10 to 20 of the hostages are over the age of 60. Over 20 are under the age of 18. The UNRWA, the UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees, issued a statement on X today saying 2 workers were killed in Gaza. Since the war began, there have been a total of 16 UNRWA workers killed. The UNRWA continues to advocate for adherence to international humanitarian law. At UN staff and civilians must be protected at all times. Spokespersons for the UN High Commissioner for the Human Rights, Ravina Shamdasani, said today that 14 Palestinians were reportedly killed in a drone strike yesterday. Moving forward, the USS Carney, which is an Aegis destroyer, shot down multiple missiles targeting Israel. This being reported from ABC News. The USS Carney, a U.S. Navy-guided missile destroyer in the northern Red Sea, shot down multiple missiles and drones launched by Iran-backed Houthis in Yemen. And the Pentagon said that they were potentially headed toward targets in Israel. It's the first time in recent memory a U.S. Navy ship in the Middle East has engaged missiles and drones that were not directly aimed at their own vessels. It's also the first U.S. military action taken to defend Israel in the current crisis, and with the U.S. and other countries trying to contain the conflict between Israel and Hamas. The possibility that an Iranian-backed proxy group fired missiles and drones at Israel is sure to increase growing regional tensions. The ship was in the northern Red Sea yesterday evening local time when it intercepted 3 land attack cruise missiles and several drones, this according to Pentagon spokesperson Brigadier General Pat Ryder at a press briefing. U.S. officials told ABC News that the Carney had brought down 8 drones launched by the Houthis. President Biden said aid for Israel and Ukraine will pay dividends. This from CBS News. Addressing the nation last night from the White House, President Biden made the case to the country and to Congress that the United States must pass $100 billion or more in supplemental funding, including billions in wartime aid for both Israel and Ukraine. The president's address, only his second from the Oval Office, comes on the heels of a whirlwind trip to Israel where he met with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Israeli President Isaac Herzog. In an impassioned speech, Mr. Biden said that America must again act as a beacon to the world and insisted that the needs of the people of Israel and Ukraine are vital to the United States' national security interests. Here I quote, "American leadership is what holds the world together. American alliances are what keeps us, America, safe," said the president. The quote continued, "American values are what makes us a partner that other nations want to work with. To put it all at risk if we walk away from Ukraine, if we turn our backs on Israel, it's just not worth it. That's why today, I will be sending to Congress an urgent budget request to fund America's national security needs to support critical partners, including Israel and the Ukraine. It's a smart investment that's going to pay dividends for American security for generations." A source familiar with the supplemental request said it includes $60 billion for Ukraine and replenishing U.S. stockpiles, $14 billion for Israel, $10 billion for humanitarian efforts, $14 billion for U.S. border with Mexico, and $7 billion for the Indo-Pacific region. The White House has not yet released the details. That speech, for what it's worth, from Fox News drew some Republican criticism. President Biden gave an address from the White House Oval Office last night. His brief remarks, however, were met with criticism as Republicans and others accused him of trying to fix problems he had previously caused and attempted to use the slaughtering of Israelis in the current humanitarian crisis in Gaza to request additional funds in the Ukraine conflict. The shame of it is we wouldn't be in this terrible position if Joe Biden hadn't been so weak in Afghanistan, so slow in Ukraine, so pandering to Iran, and so absent from the American border, wrote Nikki Haley, a Republican presidential candidate who is beating him in some head-to-head polling. The world is on fire, and America needs strong new leadership to deal with it, said Ms. Haley. Some critics called his speech unbelievable and completely disgraceful. Also, Russia complained about the speech. Russia today is blasting President Biden for comparing Russian President Vladimir Putin to the Palestinian terror group Hamas, saying that his remarks during a primetime speech last night are unacceptable and hardly suitable for a responsible head of state, this according to a report. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov made the comments according to Reuters. This after President Biden said yesterday, the assault on Israel echoes nearly 20 months of war, tragedy, and brutality inflicted on the people of Ukraine, people that were very badly hurt since Vladimir Putin launched his all-out invasion. We have not forgotten the mass graves, the bodies found bearing signs of torture, rape used as a weapon by Russians, and thousands of Ukrainian children forcibly taken into Russia, stolen from their parents. It's sick, unquote, said the president. He went on to say that Hamas and Putin represent different threats, but they share this in common. They both want to completely annihilate a neighboring democracy. From the U.S. Academy, our nation's colleges and universities, Fox News reports that University of Pennsylvania has big donor and Hamas trouble. A prominent University of Pennsylvania donor sent his alma mater a check for $1 with an annual pledge for the same amount as long as UPenn President Liz McGill remains at the school, joining a handful of other mega donors who continue to withhold donations over the school's response to the Israel-Hamas conflict and accusations of excusing anti-Semitism. He's just one of several major donors that's calling for changes at the top as the elite university grapples with the fallout of a recent on-campus event. It's gotten to the point that alumni president Michael Barrett penned a letter to his fellow Quakers reaffirming support for McGill, defending the school's handling of the situation, and criticizing the misinformation and heavy scrutiny the school has faced this month. On Sunday, McGill released a statement saying the school didn't move fast enough to address criticisms of the Palestinian Rights event. That's Palestinian, W-R-I-T-E-S, Palestinian Rights event, and strongly condemned the Hamas terror assault on Israel. Also, her initial statement to the school didn't refer to Hamas as a terror group, although it called its attack abhorrent and horrific. A Democrat senator has hammered the New York Times for a false headline dealing with the reporting of the rocket that hit a hospital parking lot a couple of nights ago in Israel. This from Fox News. Representative Ted Lieu, a Democrat from California, accused the New York Times of doing something far worse than making a mistake. This after the outlet quoted Palestinian claims blaming Israel for an explosion that rocked the Al-Ali Baptist Hospital in Gaza City earlier this week. President Biden said the U.S. intelligence confirmed Israel was not to blame for the attack and backed up Israel's military investigation, which found the strike was caused by Palestinian terror group Islamic Jihad. Users on X roasted the paper for their initial headline, which read, "Israeli strike kills hundreds in hospitals, Palestinians say," unquote. The Democrat congressman joined media watchdogs and conservative commentators criticizing the paper in an X post yesterday. Quote, "I agree the @New York Times didn't botch the Gaza hospital story. They did something far worse," Lieu wrote. They intentionally wrote an attention-grabbing headline that falsely pointed the blame at Israel to generate clicks during breaking news without waiting for confirmation or actual facts. In politics, Representative Jim Jordan has been ousted for his speakership run after 3 tries. This from Fox News. Happened earlier this afternoon. The House GOP conference voted to drop Judiciary Committee Chairman Jim Jordan as its Speaker nominee after a third defeat in a floor-wide vote earlier today. Sources told Fox News Digital that the conference had voted to remove Jordan as a nominee in the closed-door meeting. Jordan had even more Republicans vote against him in the third round of voting for the Speaker's gavel today. 25 Republicans voted against Jordan, giving him just 194 votes, far short of the approximately 217 he would need to win the Speaker's race. It's the lowest total so far in 3 ballots. Following the meeting, the House adjourned and will not come back until Monday with a possible vote on a Speaker nominee, much discussed over the weekend, I'm sure, on Tuesday at the earliest. Out of state news today from Maryland. This from Fox News. Maryland authorities say a judge was the victim of a targeted attack when he was gunned down outside his home last night. Law enforcement is looking for Pedro Argote in the killing of Washington County Circuit Court Assistant Judge Andrew Wilkinson. Authorities say there was a hearing earlier yesterday during which Wilkinson awarded child custody to a woman in Argote's divorce. Argote was not present for that proceeding. Quote, "This was a targeted attack on Judge Wilkinson," according to Washington County Sheriff Brian K. Albert, this during a Friday morning press conference, adding that Argote, 49, was not been apprehended as yet and is considered armed and dangerous. The suspect legally owns a firearm. News of Trump world, Sidney Powell, Kenneth Chesborough have taken a Georgia plea deal. This being reported by USA Today and the Deadline website. Sidney Powell, Trump's former attorney, pled guilty yesterday to 6 misdemeanor charges related to efforts to overturn the 2020 presidential election results in Georgia. Under terms of the agreement, Powell will serve a 6-year probation, pay a fine of $6,000, and testify at the trials of several co-defendants in the case. She also agreed to write an apology letter to Georgia residents. Meanwhile, Deadline.com is reporting that Kenneth Chesborough, an attorney and one of the 19 defendants named in the Fulton County, Georgia election interference case, pled guilty today to a felony charge. Chesborough pled guilty to conspiracy to commit filing false documents, averting a trial that was scheduled to start next week. At a hearing carried on cable news networks, he was sentenced to 5 years of probation, 100 hours of community service, and $5,000 restitution. He also agreed to testify truthfully as other defendants face trials. He will also be asked to write a letter of apology. And that is today's front page. Thanks very much for joining us, by the way. This is the Wells Report, and good news that the hostages, the 2 American hostages being released, an American mother and her daughter. The mother is apparently in bad health, and that Hamas, or their captors, saw fit to release her on what they call humanitarian grounds. I suspect that there is something else involved in that. Many people have been discussing it throughout the day. Most of this discussion centers around the idea that, hey, Hamas is playing the public relations game as adroitly as they possibly can. In other words, to start releasing hostages on what is at least the very edge of the moment where Israel is going to pour its army into the the Gaza Strip. That is what's next. Hamas must cease to exist. Hamas has proven itself to be nothing more than a sociopathic, murdering, rabid terror group. And Israel can't allow it to continue. Consequently, what has to happen is that Israel has to go into the Gaza Strip, find these people, and either arrest or otherwise do away with them as they see fit. Something that I can't really find any fault with. And that is not something that should be either delayed or in any way up to and including providing humanitarian aid for the people inside the Gaza Strip. The Gaza Strip must be open to the point where you can allow people to leave. By the way, there was a piece of reporting in there where it said that Israel attacked after telling people to go to the Raja Gate, which is south. They said that Israel attacked the people that were trying to leave. That is not the case. That is either biased or outright in error. That report is in error. But I suspect bias is more of that than anything else. It was a USA Today article. It's one of the reasons why you're here, to hear the news, fairly reported, honestly reported, analyzed for what is not. We de-propagandize the news around here, and we're very, very happy to do it. Our telephone number is 817-379-2172, 817-379-2172. We'll spend some time talking a little bit more about exactly what has been going on today. A lot of news to cover and not a lot of time to do it. We'll be on the air until 5 o'clock Central Time as we continue with the Wells Report. 817-379-2172. We'll wait for your call.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right, for about $50 a month, you'll get lightning fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back, but you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now.
Call 866-245-6155. That's 866-245-6155. Again, 866-245-6155. 866-245-6155.
This is the Wells Report. My name is John David Wells. We are bringing you the news. We analyze the news for fact and bias. We make commentary and we debate. Time to talk a little bit more about the USS Carney. This is a guided missile destroyer, Arleigh Burke class. And we have the Stars and Stripes article that explains exactly what happened with the U.S. warship operating in the northern Red Sea. A U.S. warship shot down multiple rockets and drones in the Middle East on yesterday, that were fired from Yemen and possibly targeting Israel, according to the Pentagon. The crew of the guided missile destroyer USS Carney, operating in the northern Red Sea, earlier today shot down 3 land attack cruise missiles and several drones that were launched by Houthi forces in Yemen. This according to Air Force Brigadier General Pat Ryder, the Pentagon top spokesman. The USS Carney is an Arleigh Burke-class destroyer. It's armed with several guns, missiles, torpedoes, as part of the military's Aegis Ballistic Missile Defense System, a program that provides defense against short and intermediate range missiles. Ryder said the ship's commanders are trained to take such action when a threat is imminent, but he did say the Carney engaged the Houthi missiles and drones. We cannot say for certain what these missiles and drones were targeting, but they were launched from Yemen, headed north along the Red Sea, potentially toward targets in Israel, he said, adding no Americans or civilians on the ground were hurt. Our defensive response was one that we would have taken for any similar threat in the nation or in the region. The Houthis in Yemen are a rebel group supported by Iran. Since 2014, they have been involved in a civil war with the government in Yemen, which is located in the southern part of the Arabian Peninsula and borders Saudi Arabia to the south. It borders the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden. The Carney's actions came amid spiking violence and attacks in the Middle East and in the 2 weeks since Hamas launched a surprise assault against Israel October 7th, killing more than 1,400 Israelis. Reuters said the U.S. military officials are investigating the rockets and drones fired from Yemen, as well as drone attacks this week against U.S. bases in Iraq and Syria as individual incidents rather than part of the fighting between Israel and Hamas. I don't want to allow my imagination to fill in the gaps, said Reiter. It's important to separate these attacks from the current situation in Israel and Gaza. We are, of course, going to take all that seriously, but we are not going to overreact. The drone attacks against U.S. bases in Iraq, that is Iraq and Syria, on Wednesday and Thursday caused minor injuries to some American and coalition troops. The Al-Tanf garrison in southeastern Syria was targeted in one of the attacks. The Al-Assad air base in western Iraq, the other. Both locations had been targeted previously by enemy drones. However, Reiter did say a U.S. defense contractor at the Al-Assad base died while scrambling for cover during an alert warning of a possible incoming threat. Neither the contractor nor his company were identified. The drone strikes against U.S. bases and the rocket fire from Yemen come as the United States provides aid to Israel in its fight against Hamas, a militant group that the U.S. classifies as a terrorist organization. The Pentagon said it had moved numerous assets in recent days to the region, mainly to deter other countries or groups from escalating the conflict. The Pentagon said Thursday, that's yesterday, that new aid is expected to arrive in Israel on nearly a daily basis. More U.S. aircraft and ships are being dispatched to the region. The USS Mount Whitney, a naval command and control ship, departed from Italy on Wednesday for the Eastern Med and will join the two aircraft carrier strike groups there. The Pentagon also said other ships are in the region, including the USS Mesa Verde, the USS Carter Hall, and the USS Bataan. The Mesa Verde is an amphibious transport ship. The Carter Hall is a docking landing ship. And the Bataan is an amphibious assault ship. We are going to continue to do what we need to do to deter a conflict and ensure regional stability. Earlier this week, military officials said 2,000 U.S. troops, these are non-combatant troops, would soon receive pre-deployment orders for the Middle East. Reuters said yesterday that some of the units have been selected for the deployment should President Joe Biden decide to send more U.S. troops. So I would expect that the idea, the actual mission of these assets is relatively out in the open. We have the ships of varying capabilities. You can look up USS Mesa Verde, USS Carter Hall, USS Bataan. You can put this together for yourself. I've been doing this in my head as I was reporting this. The Carter Hall is a docking landing ship. Bataan is an amphibious assault ship. The Mesa Verde is an amphibious transport ship. So we're going to continue. This is what General Reiter said. We are going to continue to do what we need to do to deter a conflict and ensure regional stability. Do not be surprised if suddenly there is shore leave granted for certain military personnel in the United States and the country of Israel. That's not what they're going to call it, but just don't be surprised if you suddenly see that if indeed things begin to get a little bit out of hand, certain American troops would be dispatched to enjoy a fall day or 2 or 10 or 50 in Israel. Just throwing it out there for whatever it's worth. Hopefully it's not worth anything. But I guarantee you that while, say, for example, Hezbollah might think they could give the Israeli Defense Force a run for its money, backed up by United States Marines, I don't think Hezbollah would feel like they should do anything at all except sit there and talk about how none of these gigantic ships, weapons, and American soldiers and Marines scare them as they wet their pants. This is the Wells Report. Yes, I said it. The Wells Report, not the wet your pants part. This is the Wells Report. It's Friday afternoon, and yes, I have forgotten my fishing shirt. I'm going to go change into it right this very moment and bring more news to you next. Thanks very much for joining us. Back in just a moment.
How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right, for about $50 a month, you'll get lightning fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back. But you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now.
Call 866-245-6155. That's 866-245-6155. Again, 866-245-6155. 866-245-6155.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
Hey, thanks for joining us this morning for the Wells Report, and make sure you share us with all your friends on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Rumble, Patreon, and don't forget to check out our Substack column, which will be coming up a little bit later on this afternoon. When you do all this, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you give us those thumbs up. They are really important. Check the notification box so you know when we're on the air, and whatever you do, join us every morning, Monday through Friday, 9 to 11 a.m. Central Time, for the Wells Report.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost.
North to south, coast to coast, around the world. This is the Wells Report. What do we do here? We report the news, honestly and fairly. We analyze the news for fact and bias. We point out both. We make commentary. That's not news. Commentary is opinion, both yours and mine. And so we debate. News, analysis, commentary, and debate. This is the Wells Report. I'm John David Wells. Fishing Shirt Friday. I turned on, I changed into my fishing shirt. The first hour, not so much. I had a polo on, but now I've got my favorite fishing shirt of all time. It's a Magellan. Not one of those overly expensive Columbias. This is a nice shirt. Really like it. It's a little big, but that's okay. Time now to talk a little bit and report a little bit about President Biden's address to the nation, his second from the Oval Office. In that speech, he requested funding from Congress, or said he would request funding from Congress for Israel and Ukraine in order to fund America's national security needs. An investment, he said, would pay dividends for American security, while warning that both Hamas and Russian President Vladimir Putin seek to completely annihilate a neighboring democracy. That drew stunning criticism from Russia against President Biden for making that statement regarding the comparison of Vladimir Putin to Hamas. The president addressed the nation from the Oval Office a day after he visited with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Israeli officials in Tel Aviv. Biden and Israeli officials discussed the ongoing war and the humanitarian crisis unfolding in the Gaza Strip. The president said he would send Congress an urgent budget request today to fund America's national security needs to support our critical partners, including Israel and Ukraine, as part of a smart investment that's going to pay dividends for American security for generations. The president said the package, if approved, will help to keep American troops out of harm's way, build us a world that is safer, more peaceful, and more prosperous for our children and our grandchildren in Israel. We must make sure that they have what they need to protect their people today, said Biden. And always, the security package I'm sending to Congress and asking Congress to do is an unprecedented commitment to Israeli security that will sharpen Israel's qualitative military edge, which we've committed to the qualitative military edge. That, unfortunately, is a quote. That's not a mistake. So, just in case you wanted to know, a little bit of word salad there on the part of the president. Biden said the funding would help ensure the Iron Dome continues to guard the skies over Israel. That means protecting civilians in combat as best they can. And the people of Gaza urgently need food, water, and medicine. The president also spoke to President Mahmoud Abbas of the Palestinian Authority and said that he reiterated the United States remains committed to the Palestinian people's right to dignity and self-determination. The actions of Hamas terrorists don't take that right away. That may be, but you're going to have to involve Hamas in that, and Hamas has involved itself in Israel and the United States business there, and Hamas has therefore taken itself completely off the list of reasonable actors. There is no point in negotiating in any way, shape, or form with Hamas. None whatsoever. Hamas is a terrorist organization. very much like ISIS, if not exactly like ISIS and Al-Qaeda. They need to be eradicated. As a matter of fact, nothing can be done in the Gaza Strip and the plight of Palestinians until Hamas is gone. And that should be the message. That should be the message not just heard here in the United States when money is being asked for. This is a message that needs to be heard by the people in the Gaza Strip. Why? Very simple. The people of the Gaza Strip, at some point, they're either going to stand with Hamas and therefore be part of Hamas, or they're going to get hungry enough and they're going to get thirsty enough and they're going to need medical care enough so that eventually they start turning in these thugs to Israeli authorities. Of course, Israeli authorities have to be in the Gaza Strip before they can have these other people, the Palestinians, that are referred to as being innocent, if there are any, can do their work and turn these Hamas terrorists into the Israeli Defense Force. These are the harsh realities. It's one of the reasons why General William Tecumseh used to say that war was hell. It is. It is. But remember, this war wasn't started by Israel. Israel's finishing it, not starting it. And this worldwide press against Israel to allow a ceasefire, to allow humanitarian aid into the Gaza Strip, all that is delaying an essential move into the Gaza Strip. And if indeed there are Palestinians there that don't stand with Hamas, that find what Hamas did is absolutely reprehensible, then they need to stand up and start saying so. Of course, anybody that does will immediately be shot in the head by a Hamas terrorist in some nearby room, because that's the way they do business. That's why when I say that there are no innocent Palestinians, there are no innocent Palestinians. Even the ones that are held essentially as prisoners by their own government. That is just the way it is. The President of the United States getting in Israel's way. Also, there was something else. We are talking about protecting civilians. We're talking about protecting the borders of Israel. What about the borders of the United States? This is a $105 million package. Tens of billions of dollars going to Ukraine. Tens of billions of dollars going to Israel. Last I heard, there was $7 billion headed toward the border. Is that $7 billion there for infrastructure spending so that we can build a fence from one end of the border with Mexico to the other end of the border with Mexico? No, that money is destined to go out there and essentially enable people that are coming across the border illegally to come across the border illegally, as opposed to stopping them cold against the hard steel of a United States border fence. Tens of billions of dollars for countries, and yes, I have no problem spending any money necessary for Israel. Ukraine, I have a bigger problem with. Just how much money are we going to send the country of Ukraine? And oh, by the way, I may be just a little bit, maybe mercantile. But you know what I want to know? I want to know what Ukraine's going to do for the United States after we spend all this money on them. Because sooner or later, they're either going to be the Ukraine or they're just going to be another province of Russia, but I'm betting that it's probably going to be the country of Ukraine. Because sooner or later, somebody's going to wake up to the fact that Russia needs access to the Crimean Peninsula and Ukraine needs to figure out a way to facilitate it. And oh, by the way, Ukraine needs to get something for its facilitation. Land to the north of, say, Ukraine for whatever reason? How about that? How about Ukraine get something for its contribution to the Russian military? Because that's what the Crimean Peninsula is all about. That's why Russia went to war. They are protecting their military interests. That is their access to the Mediterranean Sea. And they have to have it. That's what started the war in Ukraine. That being said, I recall something called the Cold War. The Cold War was a circumstance whereby the old Soviet Union had unbelievably a huge number of military assets arrayed against Western Europe, all along the frontier, what used to be called the Iron Curtain. And the United States spent trillions upon trillions of dollars defending Europe, all the while creating and being a member of something called the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, or NATO. And NATO had this idea that all the countries that were participating in NATO spend 2% of their gross domestic product on NATO. And none of the European countries ever paid it. And so what ended up happening is that America, you and me, the American taxpayer, ended up paying for the defense of Europe for decades. When the Soviet Union finally collapsed, what did the Europeans do? Well, first, they did a wonderful thing. They created the European Union. That's still a good thing. And then what they did was they started buying natural gas and oil products from where? That's right. The new Russia. Excuse me? And what we keep hearing about is well, if Vladimir Putin gets away with running into Ukraine and taking Ukraine away, well, he's just going to go right there. He's going to start invading France. And so once again, we're finding ourselves in a position where we're spending money to defend Western Europe, according to the story. That's not the case. Vladimir Putin wants Crimea. He doesn't want the rest of, although he's made some provocative statements regarding Poland and Romania, etc. All I can tell you is I doubt very sincerely if Vladimir Putin, he doesn't have the military power. He does not have the economy to be able to take over Western Europe anyway, so that's basically political baloney. Or baloney stuff. BS. You get my drift? So, anyway, that's the story. But once again, we're being asked to pay for the defense of Europe. Again. With a country that's not even a NATO ally. And so, what is Ukraine going to do for the United States of America once they get their country back and once they realize just how much the United States taxpayer has paid for them to have their country, assuming, of course, they're able to save it? What are they going to do? They're going to do business with the United States? They better. They better. But of course, if they don't, what are you and I going to do? The people spending our money there will very likely be long gone from government service or long gone from human service before we find out what Ukraine is going to do to repay the investment made to them by the people of the United States. Israel is a completely different matter. They are a solid ally. They do represent a very important part of American national security. They do. But sooner or later, Iran is going to come into this mix. Israel is going to engage Iran, and then it's going to get very, very interesting, very, very fast. And yeah, the United States of America is going to be involved. Is it better to stop this particular circumstance now than wait until, I don't know, Iran has a nuclear weapon? I would say yes. That's the analysis I bring to this today, based on the president's speech. There is one other thing that absolutely enrages me about the president's speech. I was mad about the fact that he didn't spend a lot of time talking about the southern border of the United States, but he rather talk about the border of Ukraine and the borders of Israel, etc., but not the American border. There was one other thing he didn't talk about, He didn't talk about it at all, let alone properly. I'll explain what that is and what the proper speech around it should be as we continue here on the Wells Report. 817-379-2172 is our telephone number. Back in a moment.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
This is the Wells Report. My name is John David Wells. We're bringing you the news, the real news. I translate. I'm a good translator. I translate garbage and propaganda into news. And that's why you're here, and I appreciate it. Thank you for being here. So, let's see. Luana Custer-Damron. Luana, thanks very much for coming back. I've missed you. How can you say it was an impassioned speech? He sounded like he needed a nap. Well, Luana, I didn't say that. That was actually reporting from somebody else. I believe it was I think that was, yeah, it was Fox News. I didn't write that copy. I was just giving that to you. So I read the news, I give you the news, I translate it into news as opposed to propaganda, and then I tell you what I think about it. So I didn't say that it was an impassioned speech. Let's see, John Ross says his speech was exactly what you'd expect from a feckless, impotent puppet of a president. Yeah, he said the right words, poorly, and all he had to do was read a teleprompter, and he is deteriorating. Every day, he's just a little bit worse. Anyway, that being said, the FBI chief, Chris Wray, is now drawing a target around Americans. Yeah, I noticed that the other day, and that got my attention too. He got together with, the Five Eyes and all of these investigative agencies from around the world and the essentially the NATO allies. And he was talking about how what they were most concerned about were lone wolf attacks. And people go, yeah, that kind of makes sense. Lone wolf attacks, yeah. No, that's not what it means. It means that if you're worried about lone wolf attacks, what you can do is you can essentially violate the constitutional rights of everyone. Yeah, you see, because it's an emergency. Because we've got this emergency, I mean, the terror alert is heightened. Yeah, so we have to start spying on people without warrants and stuff like that. Because, gosh, the Constitution and Bill of Rights gets in the way of really good police work. Yeah, I saw that and I went, what? I winced. Yes, I did. Steve the VoIP guy, I just got some intel from a reliable source why the United States was blindsided by the Hamas attack okay, I'm sorry. That's weird. Okay, so let me get back. Oh, there we go. Sorry, I sort of scrolled too fast. I just got some intel from a reliable source about why the U.S. was blindsided by Hamas on the attack on Israel. And then he said, funny how Ukraine will become a country for no men. Yeah, well, there you go. Let's see. Then Steve said this, U.S. intelligence collection efforts were intentionally redirected from Hamas and Hezbollah activities. The order to redirect came from Maher Bitar, at Joe Biden's hand-picked terrorist-sympathizing Palestinian director for intelligence at the National Security Council. You know, I heard something about that. Yeah, I heard a little bit about that. By the way, Zola Parker says hi. Hi, Z. Long time no see. No, long time no see. How have you been? Anyway, that being said, yeah, we're going to have to follow up on that because I do understand that Maher Bitar is involved in that decision, but I did not realize that he had directed intel efforts against Hamas and Hezbollah away from those organizations to be repurposed elsewhere. I'll follow that up, Steve the VoIP guy. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah, Martha Brothers, by the way, is a registered nurse. And she keeps wondering when the President Biden, is going to have a stumble from hell, do a faceplant, and get what she calls a subdural hematoma, which is essentially a blood blister beneath the level of your skull. Subdural. Yeah, and that kills you. I don't know. I keep waiting for one of his hips to give away. I'm very worried about the health of the president. And every time I see him go down a flight of stairs and how carefully he does it, I wince. This is the Wells Report. Coming up in just a couple of moments, Jim Jordan loses a third vote and is immediately dispatched by the Republican conference in the U.S. House. We'll talk Speaker next. This is the Wells Report.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost. How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right, for about $50 a month, you'll get lightning fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back, but you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now.
Call 866-245-6155. That's 866-245-6155. Again, 866-245-6155. 866-245-6155.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
News, analysis, commentary, and debate. This is the Wells Report. Hi, I'm John David Wells. Thanks very much for being a part of our broadcast today. You can do so by either calling that number that I just called, 817-379-2172, or you can join us on the chat room. All right? Anything will do. Let's see. Martha Brothers, our resident registered nurse, says that she believes he has a condition called foot drop. The connections between a person's brain and feet don't work right. Watch him walk. He barely lifts his feet from the ground. Yeah. That's why he has troubles with stairs, by the way. You notice the media never says anything about a checkup like they did when President Trump was the president. The worst was when President Bush, George W. Bush was president. I really did not need to hear about President Bush's colonoscopy, but the media just took great pride and pleasure in trying to embarrass the president as much as they could. See, I'm not worried about a broken hip as much as I am about a huge fall where another person like his wife has to help him be the president. Okay. Well, there you go. So that's the chat room, and thanks very much for your contributions to the chat room today. By the way, the House speakership, with every move, I'm going to go over to the opinion cam because I'm about to opine. With every move that the Republicans make trying to choose a new speaker, my decision to leave the party is more justified and confirmed. The Republican Party is useless. I don't often agree with President Obama, but when President Obama referred to the party as the do-nothing Republicans, I got to tell you, this is pretty close to do nothing. All right? Now, you can be angry for whatever reason you'd like to about how Kevin McCarthy was removed from the speakership, but I wanted to see those January 6th tapes. I wanted all that information from the January 6th committee released to the public. And none of it has been. None of it. And that's because, oh dear, it's an Amber Alert. Child abduction in Point, Texas. It's a blue 2010 Volkswagen Jetta, license number SBL Sierra Bravo Lima 1628. It's a Texas license. Victim is 2 years old. He's a white male. Ethan Donnelly. He was last seen wearing unknown clothing. Suspect is a 36-year-old white female, Sylvia Lopez. If you see this car, the blue 2010 Volkswagen Jetta, license SBL 1628, that's a Texas license, make sure you call 911 with information. The suspect is a 36-year-old white female named Sylvia Lopez. That's the Amber Alert I just got. So anyway, getting back to what we were talking about. So the Republican Party can't get a speaker going. Well, the President of the United States just coming back from Israel, saying that he's got to get this package sent to Ukraine and Israel, and oh, by the way, $7 billion to the border. Now he wants that done in 24 to 48 hours. Well, you can't do something like that without a Speaker of the House. And you can like it or not like it, how Kevin McCarthy didn't retain the Speaker's gavel. You know, I got to be honest with you, I am as frustrated as I can possibly be with what I have called the most dangerous political faction in the United States. It's not the Squad. It's not Bernie Sanders and his gang of socialists. The most dangerous political group in the United States are moderate Republicans. And the moderate Republicans refuse to back off for the sake of even the party. You'll note that Kevin McCarthy was ousted by a group of hard right conservative Republicans. They were. They are, and he was. And during that time, all of these moderate Republicans came out and talked about how stupid and ridiculous these foolish right-wing hardliners were, and how terrible they were, that they didn't just get in line behind Speaker McCarthy and make it happen. Well, for those of us who watch the Republican Party continue to enable Democrats right up to and including not releasing the January 6th tapes or all the evidence from the January 6th committee, by the way, that is our information. It's not classified. It happened on national TV. I want to see it. I want to see all of it. And Kevin McCarthy could have done that, but didn't. Well, that should cost him his job. But now we're in a situation where the same people that were garbaging the conservative element of the Republican Party are doing exactly what they were doing last week. Now they're saying, oh yeah? Well, I don't have to vote for your guy either. Yeah. Is anybody saying the moderate Republicans are screwing up the entire party? No, they're not saying it because everybody knows that moderate Republicans have been screwing up the entire party for decades. And so, I'm not a Republican. I'm a conservative. I'm a member of the Conservative Party of America. And when you consider we have a $33 trillion national debt, and it was just announced today in the news that we have a $1.7 trillion budget deficit for this year, I think that the Conservative Party of America, or the CPA, might be a really good thing to do. Bring another CPA into the American bank book. I think that's a wonderful idea. It's a nice pun, too. Anyway, I'm a conservative. And the Republican Party is not conservative. And if there is anything that's going to save this country, it's conservative politics. Not moderate Republican bipartisanship with Democrats trying to run the country off the road. And so they're trying to elect a speaker. Jim Jordan got 3 bites at the apple, no go, and he was set aside today. There are other people that are running for the Speaker of the House of Representatives. Endorsements have rolled in for a few. Representative Mario Diaz-Balart of Florida endorsed his fellow Floridian, Representative Byron Donalds. Byron Donalds would be a superb Speaker of the House. He's young, he's smart, he's got guts. As a matter of fact, he is such a perfect candidate for the Speaker of the House of Representatives to be voted into office immediately by the Republican Party that he'll never get the job because it would make too much sense. It would absolutely make too much sense. The Republican Party can't make the perfect decision to put Representative Byron Donalds into the speakership because they're too flipping stupid. By the way, Donalds has yet to publicly announce that he intends to seek the gavel. A spokesperson from his office says, yeah, he's in the running. Good. He's the right guy. Okay, he is the right guy. Listen, believe it or not, Steve Scalise would have been fine. Jim Jordan would have been fine. But Jim Jordan has upset too many of these moderate Republicans, these rhinos. Oh, yeah? I remember when you first came to the House of Representatives, Mr. Jordan, and how you stomped all over all of us and tried to make us look stupid. Well, now who looks stupid now? Huh? Well, I'm glad that you're putting your personal political vendettas in front of the United States. Thank you very much, Mr. Rhino Republican, crapping on Jim Jordan. Good job. Let's see who's going. Kevin Hern, Oklahoma, good guy. Austin Scott, the Republican from Georgia, don't know anything about him. Tom Emmer, I believe he is a former United States Marine Corps general. I kind of like Marine Corps generals. I like Marines. That would be good. Certainly the drill and ceremony of the Republican caucus would get a hell of a lot better. Jack Bergman, the Michigan Republican. Pete Sessions. We know Pete Sessions. Pete Sessions is a guy who has spent a lot of time on the Wells Report. As a matter of fact, every time he showed up, it was like a master's class in running the House of Representatives. He used to be the chairman of the Rules Committee. And when he came back to the district, he would come in and spend some time with us here on the Wells Report. And I don't know which was better, the conversations on the air or the conversations off the air, where I was schooled brilliantly about how things work. Now, you'll have to keep something in mind. It was during those conversations I realized that the Republican Party has a completely different agenda. My job was not to argue with Pete Sessions. My job was to allow the representatives to speak to his constituents. because I do something called journalism as opposed to somebody trying to get into a debate or an argument disguised as journalism. Anyway, Pete Sessions, great guy, doesn't have a chance. Because I don't even think that the moderate Republicans would rally around Pete Sessions. I just don't think so. Now, is Pete Sessions conservative? No. He is a moderate Republican, but he's a good man. He is, but he doesn't have a chance. And then that takes us to Representative Byron Donalds of Florida, who would be a perfect Speaker of the House. Perfect. He crosses all the T's. He dots all the I's. This guy would be perfect as Speaker of the House, and everybody knows it, and the Republican Party isn't smart enough to be able to pull that off. Jody Arrington is a Republican from Texas also. And then there's Representative Mike Johnson, who is also one of my favorite guys in the House of Representatives. Okay? Is he a moderate Republican? I think so. But does he ask really, really hard questions of people that come to Capitol Hill and sit down in front of one of the committees that he's on? Yeah, Mike Johnson is good. So out of all of these, okay, Mike Johnson, Byron Donalds, Tom Emmer. Those are the ones that I think probably have a chance. Kevin Hern's in the running, but I would say my top three, Mike Johnson, Byron Donalds, Tom Emmer. All I know is the Republican Party, every time it screws this up, looks dumber and dumber and dumber. And they need to stop. And by the way, I do appreciate the fact that, let's see, what was his name? Patrick McHenry. Patrick McHenry is a good guy. He wears bow ties, and that's a little silly. That being said, don't get me wrong, I like bow ties. I do. Either white tie or black tie. I just don't believe in wearing bow ties as a matter of course, excuse me. I even know how to tie them, but enough of that. So the circumstance goes like this, all right? He is a moderate Republican. He is a guy that would essentially do exactly what Kevin McCarthy was doing, except he'd be even more beholden to the Democrats and more enabling of Democrat policy. But he's a good guy, and he's been put in a tough situation, and he stood up to it and done very, very well. But when they started thinking about expanding his capabilities, expanding his powers so that he, as a pro tempore Speaker of the House, could move forward with House business, I wrote on X, I said, you know what? If indeed the Republicans do that, that's the end of the party. That is the end of the Republican Party. Because what they're doing is they're abdicating their own leadership for the sake of some coalition government that they use in parliaments around the world. And when you collect a bunch of political parties in a parliament to come together as a coalition government, you have to take care of all the party interests. Well, how many parties do we have in the United States? Right now, we only have two. Soon we're going to have three. But we have two. So if you do a coalition government in the House of Representatives, who are you going to coalesce with? That's right, the Democrats. And I said, that's enough. I wasn't the only one. Chip Roy said that if they indeed expanded the capabilities of this temporary, this pro tempore Speaker of the House, the Republican Party might as well be Whigs. And that was an old-timey political party of conservatives, sort of. But they were the Whigs, you didn't really know what they stood for. So Chip Roy may be saying that if they do this, the Republican Party may be Whigs, but I can make a great case for the fact that the Republicans are the Whigs already. In other words, it's a useless party, accomplishing nothing. They can't even choose a leader. And it dost driveth me crazy. It maketh me angry. It dost vex me, it vexes me so. How about thee? Oh boy, Let's see, what do we got here? That bill is throwing crumbs to Israel, funding Iran, and aid to Gaza. What's going on? Well, it's not exactly crumbs. Israel can do an awful lot with, well, I think it's $40 billion. That's a lot of money for them. And remember, not all of it is cash. A lot of it is military gear. So keep that in mind too. The Wells Report in progress a little later than normal, but too many things to talk about, and that's why we're talking about them here on the Wells Report. Back with more in a moment.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right, for about $50 a month, you'll get lightning-fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back, but you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now.
Call 866-245-6155. That's 866-245-6155. Again, 866-245-6155. 866-245-6155.
This is the Wells Report. My name is John David Wells, Fishing Shirt Friday in progress. And we've got a couple of other things I want to chat with you about. So we have these things called airplanes. They fly in straight lines up in the sky in a very brilliant, well-organized flight system that covers the entire United States. Therefore, the airplanes can fly in straight lines at hundreds of miles an hour, somewhere around 500 miles an hour. And when you think about 500 miles an hour, gosh, you can go a long way in an hour. 500 miles is a long way. We also have things called trains. Trains follow tracks that have been laid down for centuries in this nation. And these trains are really, really good because a lot of times they go in straight lines. They're only going 75, 80 miles an hour, depending on whether there are mountains in the way. But they are very, they're very economical. And we move a lot of freight on trains. You see, we used to do a lot of passenger travel on trains, but then, well, we came up with airplanes and this amazing air traffic control system that keeps them from crashing into each other, and how they can go hundreds of miles an hour instead of tens of miles an hour. But for some reason, reasons I cannot fathom, we still have Amtrak in the United States. Yeah. And Amtrak is building new trains. They're called Aero Trains. Yeah, they're building new Aero Trains around the nation with world-class accommodations to meet a soaring demand for train travel. I'm sorry, soaring. Isn't that something birds do? You know, things that fly in the air. That's a bad choice of words. But then again, it's a government organization, isn't it? Amtrak is a government organization. My goodness gracious, we have a soaring demand for train travel. Yeah. Well, that's the wrong word. But anyway, offering a more sustainable way to travel and featuring a modern design with world-class amenities, Amtrak Aero will transform the travel experience. The new trains will elevate the journey with a focus on comfort and efficiency, providing even more advantages to traveling by rail. What advantages? What advantages? There are no advantages. There are no advantages to driving by rail or fly to go anywhere by rail. Get on an airplane. You can be there in an hour, or you can be there in several hours on a brand new Amtrak Aero train. Now, would you have more room? Yes. Would you be able to sleep in the sleeper car? Yes. Would that be cool? Yes. Yes, it would. But it's not the way I want to do all my travel. Now, if you're petrified in fear of flying, that's understandable. This might be good news for you. The first Amtrak Aero train scheduled to debut in 2026 will do the following routes: the Northeast Regional, the Empire Service, the Amtrak Virginia Services, Keystone Service, that's Pennsylvania, Amtrak Downeaster, Amtrak Cascades, Maple Leaf, New Haven, Springfield, Greenfield, Palmetto, Carolinian, Pennsylvanian, the Vermonter, the Ethan Allen Express. Yeah, the Ethan Allen Express. Every now and then it gets hung up. And then, of course, there's the Adirondack. So, trains. They're really cool looking, actually. They'll go up to 125 miles an hour. Huh. How fast does that plane go? 525 miles? 500? Yeah. Yeah. Trains. What are we doing? How much money are we spending on them? I don't know. Let's see. An Illinois company is recalling 61,000 biometric gun safes. Naperville, Illinois Fortress Safe announced the recall of 61,000 biometric gun safes because of a serious safety hazard, a potentially deadly malfunction that could give anybody access to the firearms inside. Yeah. The company announced the recall with the U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission, which warned that owners of safes, despite believing they've properly programmed a fingerprint feature that gives the owner access to the firearms, the safe is, in fact, left in the default open mode. And finally, on the Wells Report, the United States Army has decided to charge Travis King, who bolted to the country of North Korea earlier this year. They've charged him with a host of crimes, from desertion to possessing child pornography. This, according to a report from Reuters. King faces 8 total charges under the Uniform Code of Military Justice, which also includes making false statements and disobeying superior officers. According to Reuters, the Army has charged him of broad misconduct prior to his escape to North Korea, including a previous attempted escape from U.S. military custody in 2022. Travis, you're making poor decisions. Let's see. And then, of course, we want to say once again we are very, very happy that 2 American hostages have been released by Hamas. There's more details coming up. Have yourself a great weekend. The executive producer of this broadcast is Dirk Steele. Our associate producer and publicist is the lovely Jube Dankworth. You can find her at netmediaconsultants.com. My name is John David Wells. Thanks very much for sharing Fishing Shirt Friday. Thank you very much for waiting a little extra time for this broadcast to be had today, and I'll see you again Monday at 9 a.m. Alrighty then. Gosh, 41 people. 41 people. 41 people. Oh my. Ha ha. So anyway, gosh, thanks very much for all you people watching. I hope you enjoyed the show. Let's see. What else? So what's the answer? How do we fix this? Wait a minute. What does it say? Throwing crumbs to Israel. How do we fix this? How do we fix this? Well, we have I think this is Martha. She's our RN worried about the president. I think the way we fix this is we have an election coming up and we choose someone else. Okay? You know, like Joe Biden, don't like Joe Biden, think he's a good president, think he's a bad president. We need to get other leadership in the United States because politicians can't handle it. They just can't. It's time to start electing ourselves. So when 2024 rolls around, remember this commandment. Elect thy neighbor. Elect thy neighbor. All right, that's the Wells Report for today. I will be back tomorrow since there are 41 of you. I will be back on Monday at 9 a.m. And the broadcast is streamable and DVDable and all that kind of stuff. But make sure you join us 9 a.m. on Monday. I'll be watching you. Okay, have yourself a great weekend. Thanks much. Love you all. Take care.